Welcome to the Parallel Podcast. My name is Jeremy Tillman. Today we're going to be going over Shavuot. So I'm going to release this in short clips initially as I kind of get my thoughts together. But stay tuned. We got some interesting stuff. Welcome back to the Parallel Podcast. The significance of today's talk is going to be taking a look at the book of Exodus along with the book of Matthew and others, comparing the Shavuot, the Feast of Weeks, Feast of Ingathering, and what we call Pentecost in the New Testament according to the book of Acts, comparing that to Passover as well as the 10 virgins in Jesus' parable in Matthew 25, and finally taking a look at how it compares to a rapture scenario. So let's get started. So our Jewish friends just finished up celebrating Shavuot this weekend on June 6th of 2022. And I was wondering, why do they celebrate on the 6th? Because when I do the math, it doesn't seem to be the 6th, but closer to the 14th of the month. And I seem to be kind of alone on that. So let's turn over to Exodus 19, verse 1, and read the first verse right there. In the third month, when the children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Egypt, the same day they came into the wilderness of Sinai. So the same day is a hint. It doesn't say that it's the first of Sivan or the first of the third month. It's saying when the children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Egypt, this same day they came into the wilderness of Sinai. So in order to know what day that is, we have to flip back to Exodus chapter 12. So I'm looking at verse 29 of chapter 12 of Exodus, and we read, "And it came to pass that at midnight the Lord smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt." Now this is Nisan 14. This is what becomes Passover and what becomes the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. We're just simply looking at it because it says on the same day in Exodus 19 verse 1. Right? In verse 32 and actually 31, the Pharaoh calls for Moses and Aaron by night and said, "Rise up and get forth from among my people, both you and the children of Israel, and go, serve the Lord. Be gone," it says in verse 32. Later in verse 39, it tells us towards the middle of the verse, because they were thrust out of Egypt and they could not tarry. So they were kicked out of Egypt and left on the 14th of Nisan. That same day in the third month is when they arrived to the wilderness to then go up Mount Sinai. So now let's go back to chapter 19 of Exodus, and in verse 10 it says, "And the Lord said unto Moses, Go unto thy people and sanctify them today," so that would be the 14th, "and tomorrow, the 15th of Sivan, and let them wash their clothes and be ready against the third day. For the third day the Lord will come down in the sight of all the people upon Mount Sinai." Now we're going to get into some interesting things because there's obviously a parallel with the crucifixion of Jesus Christ and his resurrection on the third day. But there's more parallels between Exodus chapter 12, at midnight the cry went out, and Matthew 25, when Jesus is speaking about the 10 virgins, and at midnight came someone saying, it doesn't say who, "Prepare, the bridegroom is coming." Okay, so there's parallels there. So the third day, as far as the month of Sivan, the third month, is the 16th day. So I was on YouTube, and one of the channels I watch, Got a Minute, ? He had a guest on that said, it's in the book of Jubilees. So I paused his video, and it's in chapter 44, and was reading it on the screen. So then I go over to my books application app, and I'm like, okay, Jubilees. I have a hard copy, but I want it on my tablet. And in the very first chapter, we read this. The book of Jubilees, chapter 1, verse 1. "And it came to pass in the first year of the exodus of the children of Israel out of Egypt, in the third month, on the 16th day of the month, that God spake to Moses, saying, Come up to me on the mount, and I will give thee 2 tablets of stone of the law and of the commandments, which," verse 2, "I have written, that thou mayest teach them. And Moses went up into the mount of God, and the glory of the Lord abode on Mount Sinai, and a cloud," and so on and so forth. But right off the bat, the book of Jubilees confirmed my math exactly. So that's going to conclude for the very first part of this parallel about Exodus, Shavuot, and the parable of the 10 virgins, rapture, and Passover. I just need some time to put my thoughts down on audio and video to figure this all out because there's so much I want to talk about, but I just need to get it out there as well. So today was mainly about showing when Shavuot really is, why it begins on the 14th when they entered Sinai, and the relationship between that festival and Sinai, and how it culminates on the 16th of Sivan, or the third month. So thanks for joining me today, and I'll be back with you very shortly.